Welcome, everyone. We'll be recording the presentation today for the benefit of those who could not be with us tonight and enjoy the program live. And we're also going to invite questions during the program. So you don't have to save them to the end. Feel free, once the presentation commences, to raise your hand if you want to pose a question to Mr. Davis, or you can type something in the chat and we'll try to spot it and read it. So welcome to our fourth and final History, Culture, and Diversity offering for the fall 2025 semester. Tonight we gather for SUNY Finger Lakes Community College's annual tribute to America's veterans. On behalf of the faculty, staff, and students of this institution, I'd like to express our deepest gratitude to every member of our armed forces who has served this country or continues to serve, as well as those who consistently support them and their worthy mission. We are profoundly honored to have with us tonight Vietnam War Congressional Medal of Honor recipient Sammy L. Davis. Of the 2.7 million members of the U.S. Armed Forces who served in the Vietnam War, only 261 received the Congressional Medal of Honor. As of January 2025, only 44 holders of this distinction are still with us. So Mr. Davis's appearance tonight is a rare and memorable occasion indeed. Mr. Davis served with Battery C, 2nd Battalion, 4th Artillery Regiment of the 9th Infantry Division while in Vietnam.
That was a puppy.
The 2-hour action in which PFC Davis distinguished himself and earned the Medal of Honor occurred on November 18th, 1967. That's 58 years ago today. The location was Firebase Cudgel near Cai Lay in South Vietnam, where 3 enemy companies of the 261st Viet Cong Main Force Battalion, 1,500 strong, attempted to overrun his thinly held 42-man position. For his, quote, conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life and beyond the call of duty, unquote, PFC Davis was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, our nation's highest award for valor, and he was promoted to the rank of sergeant. He received his Medal of Honor from President Lyndon Johnson in the White House on November 19th, 1968. So tomorrow marks another important anniversary. Sergeant Davis's exploits on the night of November 18th, 1967 would serve as inspiration for the film Forrest Gump. And the film sequence of LBJ decorating Private Gump was repurposed footage of Sergeant Davis's own award ceremony. So think about that the next time you watch that landmark film. In addition to the Medal of Honor, Sergeant Davis also earned the Silver Star, 2 Purple Hearts, the Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal with 2 campaign stars, and the Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, as well as 2 unit citations, the Presidential Unit Citation and the Republic of Vietnam's Gallantry Cross Unit Citation. Mr. Davis continued to devote his life to public service long after he departed the Army. He has been an unstinting supporter of his fellow veterans and a tireless advocate for veterans' benefits and medical assistance, particularly those adversely affected by their exposure to Agent Orange while on active service in Southeast Asia. Mr. Davis has spent years touring the country and speaking to veterans organizations, school groups, and the general public, helping to raise awareness of PTSD and the manifold other challenges still faced by the Vietnam generation. His nationwide talks, speeches, and presentations have been crucial in apprising countless Americans of the sacrifices made by the 2.7 million who served in Vietnam, the over 300,000 who were wounded during that conflict, and the 58,200 who never made it home. Mr. Davis's unflagging post-service efforts have proven instrumental in generating a belated and long overdue appreciation of Vietnam service members who were shamefully denied the nation's gratitude when they first came home. In 2016, Mr. Davis published a magnificent account of his wartime service You Don't Lose Till You Quit Trying, which you see here. This inspirational memoir has garnered praise from many quarters, including from Colonel Jack Jacobs, a fellow Medal of Honor recipient who you might remember spoke to us last year, and actor and veteran advocate Gary Sinise, aka Lieutenant Dan, from the Forrest Gump film. Tonight's event has been made possible by the generous support of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society. The Society's noble mission is to, quote, preserve the legacy of the Medal of Honor, inspiring America to live the values the medal represents, and supporting recipients of the medal as they connect with communities across America, unquote. Before you meet Mr. Davis, let's view a 10-minute video that the Congressional Medal of Honor Society produced, which chronicles Mr. Davis's service in Vietnam and highlights the heroic November 1967 action which earned him this esteemed award. Here we go.
It's different.
I was working at a bowling alley. I ran the restaurant at a bowling alley, and we had a television, and there came a very short clip of the president putting the Medal of Honor on Roger Donnelly. And he just, standing so tall and so straight. And now, because of the military people in my family, I was very aware of what the Medal of Honor was. And I thought, wow, when I grow up, I'd like to be a soldier like him.
In 1965, after finishing high school, Sammy Davis enlisted in the Army. His father had been an artilleryman during World War II, and he volunteered to do the same. Upon the completion of training, he requested to be sent to Vietnam.
Our job was to provide close and continuous support to the infantry. That's the artilleryman's job. So we would sometimes have to fire almost continuously for 8 or 10 hours. As long as the enemy was attacking our infantrymen, you had to do your job. And then you may lay around for a day or 2 days and not do much. Then you cleaned everything and painted everything and polished your bullets. Sergeant James Gant from Lansing, Michigan, he was the meanest sergeant I ever seen in my life, and he would make us take each bullet out of our clip every night before it got dark and polish it. He was just a bitter old man. Sergeant Gant was 27 years old. He was just a bitter old sergeant, and that's why he was picking on us.
On November 18, 1967, Davis's unit was airlifted to a tiny island in the Mekong Delta near Kai Lay, Vietnam. American infantrymen were already heavily engaged in the area when Davis and his fellow gunners arrived.
So we landed at 8 o'clock in the morning. As soon as we spread the trails on the 105 howitzer, we started firing. And we fired the weapon all day. Just before dark, the enemy broke contact, so therefore we were able to quit firing. And a helicopter, one of our helicopters, came in and sat down, and a major got out. And he said, your probability of getting hit tonight is 100%. So prepare yourselves. He got back in his helicopter, and away he went. At 2 o'clock exactly, and I remember because I looked at my watch, we heard mortars sliding down the tube, which is a very distinctive sound, and to hear them sliding down the tube, you got to be pretty close. And I said immediately, I said, well, when did we move in mortars? And Hart said, we didn't. The mortars were just raining down. And at 2:30 exactly, the mortars quit. It was this eerie quiet. We looked at each other, and we heard whistles being blown like a coach has, and orders being shouted in English. And basically what they were saying was, go kill the GI. Sergeant Gant said, okay, boys, this is it. So we grabbed a beehive round, set it on muzzle action, loaded it in the tube, and we were standing there at our position ready for them. I was waiting for Sergeant Gant to tell me to fire. Now, I knew not to fire until he said fire no matter what was happening, and I could see the enemy all around us. They were doing mass assault waves. Then he said fire, and I pulled the lanyard. Well, the weapon went off, did its job, but the enemy had set up a rocket right across the river from me. And when I fired it, they fired at my muzzle blast. When it hit the shield, it blew me off the piece. It also hit Sergeant Gant right in the chest. And the last thing I can remember was Sergeant Gant just disappearing into the darkness. Well, the enemy started turning my howitzer around, supposedly to turn it and fire it at our guys. If I'd been awake, I would have known that our next gun back was going to fire a beehive round. Standing rule is you never let the enemy take control of the weapon. You know, common sense. But I was not, I was unconscious. So when the enemy started picking my howitzer up to fire it, Bill Few from Rising Sun, Ohio, fired the beehive. A beehive round effectively turns the 105 howitzer into a shotgun. It fires 18,000 little darts, beehive darts. From mid-thigh up to and including my fourth lumbar vertebra, I had about 30 beehive holes that just passed through me. I had a flak jacket on, which is the only thing that saved my back. When they fired the beehive at me, it woke me up, and I rolled over and I rolled face up in the bottom of my foxhole, and I'm looking up and I could see all these pretty lights going right over the top of my foxhole, and I thought, wow, it's just like Christmas. My hearing went like turning the stereo from 0 to 50. You know, went from hearing nothing within just a very short period of time. It got loud enough that the smoke started clearing out of my head, and I'm starting to realize what's happening, and those weren't just pretty lights, they were tracers. So I kind of raised up on one elbow, and I looked down, and there was 150 to 200 enemy right there. Well, I picked up my M16. I had 12 clips, which is roughly about 180 rounds. And I started doing my job as a soldier. It was just like living in a bad dream. You know, no matter what I did, it's like I wasn't doing nothing to them. It was a reinforced battalion. It was 1,500 against 42 kids, and they just kept coming. Well, I fired the last rounds, and I didn't think that I was probably going to see daylight, but I wasn't going to quit. You know, because I thought, well, if I don't do my job, those guys behind me ain't got a chance. So I thought, well, I'll see if I can get off one round from the howitzer. So I scrounged around, found a beehive round, set it on muzzle action, found the canister that had not been fired, had to find the powder because we had everything set up nice and orderly, and naturally the mortars had blown everything askew. Now the enemy's still doing their job. I mean, they're everywhere. So I was having to hide and lay in the water, and they'd run over me, and finally when I found all the components and I loaded the piece, I pulled the lanyard. The gun didn't go off. It went, when I pulled the lanyard, it went pop, and my heart just sunk, you know, because this was my last effort. But I could feel the gun kind of going. And then it went off, and it went boom. I had overcharged it. Figured I was only going to get one round. I wanted it to be maximally effective, so I filled the canister full of loose powder. Later they told me, yeah, man, we thought that you had rigged up some kind of big flamethrower or something because of all that wet powder. That's why it didn't go off immediately. Well, I was still alive. I thought, well, maybe I can get off one more round. Well, I one more rounded it until I had heard someone across the river shouting, "Don't shoot, I'm a GI." And I seen Gwendell Holloway, my brother, standing up waving these boonie hats saying, "Don't shoot, I'm a GI." And I said, my God, somebody's got to go get him. By this point, my body was in real feeble condition, and I knew I couldn't just run down there and swim across the river. So I thought, well, I'll find an air mattress. That's what the Army had given us to sleep on. So I crawled down to the river, swam across the river, stashed the air mattress in the bushes, and started making back to where I'd last seen Gwendell standing. There was a foxhole there. And instead of just one man being in it, there were 3 men in it. Well, I knew I didn't have the strength to make 3 trips. It had taken me about 45 minutes to make that trip over to that point. And I was just getting so tired. So I asked the man above to give me the strength to carry all three of my brothers at one time.
Despite his massive injuries and the unremitting ferocity of the Viet Cong attack, Davis made 2 agonizing trips across the river, shuttling his wounded companions to relative safety.
They pulled Jim up on the bank and started doing what they could for him, and I started crawling back to help Bill Few's guys when I came across my Mino Sergeant Gant. About half his body was in water, had this big hole in his chest, and he couldn't talk, but he picked his hand up. And I thought, my sergeant wants me to hold his hand. So I kind of crawled up and I grabbed a hold, and I still was hoping that he was going to tell me what to do next, you know. And I grabbed a hold of his hand and I looked down in his eyes. The light bulb that comes on in your head that your daddy always told you about, the light bulb came on. All these things that he had, you know, polishing the bullet, the beehive round, setting the time fuse on it, setting out in 100-degree heat with a blindfold. Sergeant Gant shared with us the things that he knew was going to help us survive. And when I looked down in his eyes, I knew that he didn't hate me, that he loved me. You got to love somebody a whole lot to pick on them and teach them things. Jim Deister was one of the last people that we loaded on the helicopters. He was with our dad. The medic in the helicopter seen a bubble come up through the chest wound that Jim had in his chest. He'd been shot in the chest also. And took his stethoscope off and put it on his heart and had a heartbeat. And Jim Deister is alive and well today, living in Salina, Kansas. I got to hold Jim Deister's grandbabies. What an awesome feeling, knowing that if I hadn't done my job when I was just a kid, that this precious little thing would not be here. There were 11 of us left standing that morning out of the 42 that started, 12 counting me. The other 11 men are the men that put me in for this. I didn't do anything heroic. I did my job. That's what soldiers do. And if there was one of these given that night, there should be at least 42 of them. Because if any one of us had not done their job, there would be none of us alive. It sounds silly, perhaps, to say that I went to war and found out about love. What real love is? You know, I didn't go to war to kill people. I went to war because I loved my daddy. I wanted him to be proud of me. I went to war because I loved my grandpas and I loved my country. And when I got over there, the reason why we fought so hard was because we discovered we loved each other, that we were all we had. And they became brothers. We became brothers. And that's lasted up, you know, it's been 36 years, and those men that I fought with are still my brothers. So I learned about what real love is.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from their home in Freedom, Indiana, Mr. Sammy Davis and his wife, Dixie. Oh, sorry, you're muted. Oh, you'll have to unmute at the bottom there.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Thank you.
Good. Okay, we're good then. Think about
Okay, and as we mentioned, if anyone wants to pose a question, we don't need to wait till the end. You can raise your hand and I'll try to spot you and we'll unmute you. Otherwise, you can type something in the chat.
I will answer any question that they have.
Yeah, this is one of my students who's emailed. I've been taught that Vietnam veterans were mistreated and not seen as heroes when they came back to the U.S. Was that a viewpoint of most of the population that saw soldiers come home, or were there some people that did honor and celebrate you?
There were some that did honor and celebrate. When we landed, we're coming back from Vietnam on the big plane, and we landed in San Francisco because we had to take private planes from there onto where our homes were. And when we got off the airplane, there were many hundreds protesters there, and they had bad signs and bucketfuls of stuff they picked up off their yard after their dog had been there, and they were throwing it at us. And later our sergeant told us, well, they wanted you to respond in a negative sense because that's how they knew they'd get on TV. Well, he told us, don't do that. Just keep your pose and walk right through them. So that's what we did. And when we ignored them, they got more violent and started rubbing what out of the bucket on our faces and getting it in their mouth. But we just
Didn't
kept.
they hit you with their canes?
Oh yeah, they had canes, like they were needed canes, and they beat us with the canes, but we didn't respond. So we did good, and we finally made it to our individual aircraft that were taking us home, and that was good. Now when we landed in Indianapolis, there was family there, and they greeted us wonderfully.
And is it the case that you were asked to take off your uniform when you boarded the flight from San Francisco back home, and weren't able to put it back on until you got to your home?
No, you wore your uniform.
No, I wore my uniform.
Ah. Okay.
There were some, we've heard
Yes.
from some veterans that they were told they could not
Right.
wear their uniform because of all the violence in the airports. But Sam, you were a little bit earlier, so maybe that was
Right.
why you still wore yours.
I definitely wore my uniform.
There's a question that just came up on our screen that a young man wanted to know if you were drafted or you.
I volunteered for the U.S. Army, and I volunteered to go to Vietnam. I was just trying to do my job like my grandfathers and my daddies and my older brothers had done before me, and it was simply my turn, and I did my job.
And you were in for 3 years, right? Multiple years.
Active duty, yes, sir. And then I was in the National Guard for several years after that. They wanted to medically retire me because, well, I'd been shot 30 times, but they let me kind of stay on in the National Guard, and I still traveled all over the world, actually speaking to our troops, and that worked very well.
Yeah. What was more difficult, your service in Vietnam or doing the college campus speaking circuit afterwards with General Westmoreland?
Well, it was hard to go to the college campuses because some there did not want me there from the way they acted, but I knew that I had to walk tall and be proud and not do anything against them, which I held very closely.
Yeah, reading your book, I was impressed with the relationship that you forged with General Westmoreland. He became a mentor and a friend to you, didn't he?
Definitely, he was like a daddy to me. He took good care. Him and Kitsy, his wife's name was Kitsy, and they both, in my travels to go speak, if I was going anywhere on the East Coast, they would funnel me through where they lived, and they'd come pick me up, and I'd spend a day or two to rest, according to them, and just be there and enjoy. And then they'd put me back on a plane, and I'd go back over to wherever. So it worked great. I loved Westy and Kitsy.
And for those of you that aren't aware, General Westmoreland was in command of American forces in Vietnam.
All the military, yes.
And he was just some of the august company that you kept, particularly after you received the Medal of Honor, right?
Yes, sir. He always treated me so well and treated me like a son, so I treated him like a daddy.
Right. So we've got some things rolling into the chat here. How were Vietnam veterans treated by veterans of previous wars?
In some cases, not real great, because we were the blank, blank Vietnam veterans. But in most cases, they treated us pretty good. And then as time came on, and because we responded properly, they got better and better. Things got better.
Yeah, in your book, you mentioned a couple of encounters where they referred to Vietnam as not a real war. Is that
Oh,
correct?
exactly. Yes, sir.
Now, that must have been hard to have to
It was
endure
hard.
that.
Yes, sir.
Another, I don't know if you could read that. My dad did 2 tours in country. This is another comment. How many tours did you do in country?
I did 1 tour, and I wanted to go back, but I couldn't go back because I was wounded.
Well, they were a year long, though. They weren't just a few months.
Yeah, I spent a whole year in Vietnam.
And is it the case that once the Medal of Honor is conferred on an individual, that the military wants to kind of take you out of circulation? Or is that not that the case, the practice?
No, they want you to be out amongst the public and be out amongst the troops to help encourage.
Well, I think there used to be, or maybe still is, about not sending you back into combat.
Right. Yeah, they didn't want to send us back in.
Because it would be probably a feather in the enemy's cap to say, I killed the Medal of Honor recipient. So they can serve in other capacities, but they don't want them
going back into combat.
Sure. And I mean, you made it very clear in your memoir how desperate you were to get back to your unit after that action that saw you so severely wounded.
And General Westmoreland allowed me to go back. In fact, he escorted me back to my unit out of the hospital, which worked very good.
Right. Friends in high places.
Yes, sir.
So here's another comment in the chat. Student, very glad to meet you and be part of the event tonight. Thanking you for your service and asking, are there any lessons you learned from the war that are important for future generations to know?
You get what you give. So always do the very best you can with whatever circumstances arise. Just do the best you can and stand up for what you know is right in your heart. And that's what I encourage all the troops.
It's kind of tied to the title of your book as well, isn't it?
You don't lose until you quit trying. That's a fact.
Good life advice. Let's see. What was your initial perception of military life, and what lasting impact did the war have on your life?
Well, it went from basic training to advanced individual training, Fort Sill artillery, and then directly to Vietnam. And when I got to Vietnam, it was we landed at night, and the temperature was still almost 100 degrees. And so you step off the nice cool plane and wow, here's this immense heat. And they threw us on a bus and took us to where they were going to be educating us to where we're going, what we're going to do, which was only a couple of days. And then I went to the 9th Infantry Division and 2nd Battalion, 4th Artillery down in the Delta. And I tried to do my job.
Just I'm looking at that. It looks like most of the comments. Remember, don't be shy. Raise your hand if you want to speak directly to Mr. Davis.
Oh, yeah.
We can see the messages, but it's only on for a second or two. So,
okay.
Brittany asked if there was any memorials. Yes, there is memorials in Washington, D.C. Yes, there is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., and it's a very awesome wall.
There's also the National Medal of Honor.
Yes.
Well, it's not really a museum. It's a beautiful, beautiful display on a canal in Indianapolis. So there are lots of them now all over the country.
And Mr. Davis, you were present when the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in DC was unveiled in 1982.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us something about that experience of being there?
Well, it was just so awesome to where they had the speakers platform set up. At that time was up on top of the wall, and then speaking to the crowd that was there. And there were just thousands and thousands and thousands of Vietnam veterans and their families that was down there. And it was just awesome. It made your heart feel good and encouraged you to stand up tall for what you believed was right.
And you mentioned in your book how you, on one trip, you made your way to that section of the wall that contained the names of your brothers who fell in
Yes, sir.
action.
Yes, sir. And it was heartbreaking, but yet it made you proud that they will not be forgotten. And that's one of the things that has been told to me from World War II veterans, Korean veterans. And they said, my brothers will never be remembered. Well, the Vietnam vets were going to be remembered because here they are on the wall. So it made me feel good.
And if you don't mind my mentioning, something that we spoke about before the session started, for those of our students that, can't make it to DC, someone who's mentioned in your book that's very close to you, Johnston Dunlap, who
Yes.
was a LERP in Vietnam and was unfortunately killed over there, is buried in Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn.
Yes, sir.
Which is not far from where many of our students reside.
Yes, sir. Johnston Dunlap was an awesome man and a fantastic soldier.
Let's see if we can pull another. On a lighter note, what was your favorite sea ration?
Yes, all that.
Were you fond
What's
of
your
sea
favorite
rations?
sea ration?
My favorite sea ration? Well, usually it was whatever I could get in my hand. When you're working really hard and long days, and they had, I guess, limited amount of sea rations because you just got a few, but boy, they tasted so good. Boy, they tasted good. And then after a while, you gave the thing you didn't like. Well, here, brother, you can have this, and I'll take the hot dogs. They had hot dogs in a can. That was, everybody loved the hot dogs in a can.
And still do.
Didn't you have some sea rats from 1945?
Oh, yes, 1948. That's, some of our sea rations were very old, and they still tasted okay. I mean, you could tell they were kind of old, but they tasted, you was hungry, so you ate them.
Well, I'll remember that in the event of a nuclear war. We still subsist on those. One of our audience wants to know what was going on in your head when President Johnson handed you the Medal of Honor in the White House.
What was going on in my head? I was almost overwhelmed with the honor and dignity that President Johnson was bestowing upon me. And it just made my heart feel good. And that's one of the things that helped me continue through the politics of the time. And so it was wonderful. It was wonderful. He told me, he says, I've got a small farm just 90 miles from where you're stationed, which is Fort Hood, Texas, and come down and visit me. So when I got the opportunity, I was down at President Johnson's ranch. He was never able to be there when I was there, but Mrs. Johnson and his daughters were there, so it worked fine.
And didn't she always call him?
Oh, yes.
So
and we
you
got
could
to
talk to him.
Yes. Got to talk to him whenever I went down. I could talk to the President of the United States.
Wow, that's fantastic. And in the ceremony, what are the connections to, with Forrest Gump? Because the various things kind of out circulating on the web about that, the footage and did your own experiences kind of find their way into the film?
They the producers and the people that put the movie Forrest Gump together did a lot of background checking on me and found all kinds of footage and facts, and that's how they wove it into the movie Forrest Gump. That's how I became Forrest Gump.
Yeah, you're roughly the same kind of stature as Tom Hanks, right? So it kind of,
Yes, sir, it worked.
I mean, it's
And
your
no,
physical.
we did not get paid anything for the movie
Nope.
because as a Medal of Honor recipient, Sammy's considered public domain. So you can have anything from the government that you want. And but the good thing that came of it was we met the actors later, and Gary Sinise is such a fine American.
Yes, he is.
We're now on his board of directors, so it's been wonderful. And they were told that it was not anybody that really was alive, so they didn't even know. They just thought that was the magic of movies. But it actually was Sam's original film footage.
Yep.
They just took his head off and put Tom Hanks over him.
Yep. And it worked great.
Yeah, absolutely. And didn't you first notice it when you went to see the film in '94 and you were in the audience? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's the first time I've seen the positive proof of it, and I was in awe. They did a good job.
Right.
But he did not take his pants off and show the president where he was wounded.
That
But
was
if you
my
would
next
ask, I
question.
would have.
Right. Do you regularly attend reunions? Does your unit still have annual get-togethers? That's another question in the
Not
chat.
so much anymore. For years, we did have reunions, but we're all close to 80 years old now, and there's a few guys that we can get together in Chicago or Dallas or wherever, and we still have kind of mini reunions, and it works good.
Excellent. So the brotherhood, you keep the brotherhood alive.
As much as we can, yes, sir.
Great. It looks like Lydia has her hand up. I'm not sure if I posed your question in the chat. You can unmute and.
Yep, I got
There we
it.
go. Perfect.
All right.
How are you?
We're good, Lydia. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I do have a question. I was wondering how the political climate kind of changed your perspective of the war, if it did at all, during your service.
It did not really change the perspective of my perspective of the war. It made me understand deeper what the protesters were protesting about, because I knew that they weren't always correct. And I went to Vietnam to serve my country and to help a country be free. And that's why we fought the communists, was to help them be free. So it worked out okay.
So what about the protesters do you believe wasn't completely true to you?
Well, they were calling us the communists and all the bad names you could think of, and
The baby killers.
yeah, baby killers. And I mean, it was just they were
So
good at what they were doing, protesting.
Right.
We had there was a teacher back in Rockford, Illinois, who we were talking there to the students, and he had this giant peace symbol around his neck. He's dressed all in black, had long hair. And after Sam got done speaking, he came up and took a hold of Sam's hands, and he had taken that peace symbol off and gave it to Sam, and he said, "I want to apologize." He said, "We were misinformed by the media."
Wow.
And we believed everything the media said, but we were misinformed. And I just wanted to tell you how sorry I was. And actually, we became quite good friends with him, and we took him to the wall in Washington, D.C. And he said, I'm just so thankful that now I understand what really was going on.
And I bet that was validating for you. I bet that felt good.
It helped my heart, definitely.
And
That's good.
luckily, times were so different then that the soldiers couldn't see what was going on in America. They had very little knowledge of all the protesters and the hatred that was being, they were blaming everything on the soldier. And the soldier was there simply doing his job.
Right.
And so I remember very well. It was a very terrible time in our history.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you for your response to my question. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for asking the question, honey.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Anybody else want to pose a question directly? And that's kind of protest the war, but not the warrior, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's okay to protest the war. Just don't protest the warrior.
Right. Dr. Nye, our president and also a veteran, has said, thank you for your service, and red legs are my heroes. My uncle did 2 tours in country. Can you help our audience learn about the devastating effects of Agent Orange? I recently lost a special friend and hero from the effects of the toxin.
Yes, sir. Agent Orange in Vietnam saved our lives because we were fighting in triple canopy jungle and you couldn't see 40, 50 foot because of the foliage was so thick, and they would come in and spray it, and in 24 hours, there'd be no leaves. You could see for a long way. So that's helped save our lives. And we asked, well, will it hurt you? Because you'd get it all over you because they sprayed you. Oh, no, it won't hurt you. Well, now we're finding out that it does hurt you. And so many of our brothers are gone because of Agent Orange. And I've had skin cancers. And
Sam is like, only because I'm really tough on him on following a diet and really taking care of himself. But he's had, because of Agent Orange, he has had open heart surgery. He is a diabetic because of Agent Orange. He's had skin cancer for years that has to be removed like every 3 to 6 months. His memory, and he was even tested for Alzheimer's, which he does not have, but they say that's something too that is because of being sprayed directly with Agent Orange. So sometimes people or students will ask, how long did it take you to recover from your injuries? And he always says, well, so far it's been 58 years. It's like always something new. Now there's so many diseases. Parkinson's disease is another one that so many veterans are getting. And the list is amazing. And it's very sad. But like Sam said, at the time, it saved their lives. There was even, when they were talking about how great this stuff was, a guy drank it from the government to show you how safe it was.
The guy that was spraying it.
And I always wonder what happened.
It won't hurt you. And he drank a cupful. I don't know his name, or I would have checked on it 20, 30 years ago, but I don't know his name.
Wow.
Do you want to turn my phone off? You want me to do it?
I can't even hear it.
Okay.
There's understandably interest in the Forrest Gump connection here. Do you feel that it was an accurate portrayal of the war?
They did a pretty good job. I mean, they didn't do everything exactly the way it happened, but they did a pretty good job. I was proud of them.
Do you have a particular favorite film that you'd recommend to the students?
Forrest Gump.
What do you think of Born on the 4th of July, Platoon?
Oh, yes, definitely. There are a lot of movies out there that encourage America to stand up and be involved. And that's what we have to do, is to stand up and be involved. Stand up for what you believe is right in your heart.
Did your experience in Vietnam kind of inform the perspective that you had about subsequent American conflicts, like the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq?
Well, I got to go talk to the troops in all of the wars since Vietnam. That was another thing that General Westmoreland set up, was for me to go talk to the troops. So I would go talk to the troops. So I learned a lot, and I shared with them the experiences that I'd had in Vietnam. And then after I come back home, and I still get to talk to some of those guys today, and they said, "Sam, thank you for coming and talk to us. You helped relieve the burden on our heart, and we just stood up for what we believe was right." I said, "Thank you."
What we found over the years is that a different war, a different time, same problems.
Yep.
None of that's changed.
Do you find that the way in which your generation of veterans was treated, or mistreated, I should say, that in a way America's attempting to atone for that in the more positive treatment that it's given to recent returning veterans?
Well, usually when you go to a rally that's supporting our current veterans and the job they've done, the leaders are not always, but are Vietnam veterans or the children or grandchildren of Vietnam veterans. That's what I'm finding. So our experiences in Vietnam and the way we was treated when we come home was being passed on to America, and that's why they're standing up for what they believe is right, and that's what I believe in. You stand up for what you believe is right.
We have a comment in the chat by Josh Jensen, who's a Marine Corps veteran, one of our students. What would be the best advice you would give this generation of American youth that are thinking about joining the armed forces?
I encourage them to join the branch of military that they believe in the most and go do your job. We need the help. We need more people in the military that love our country and love our fellow men.
Now, on the other hand, as a mom and a grandma, we have a grandson that right now is in basic at Fort Sill, and he got accepted as a combat medic. And we're really, really proud of him, but I'm really scared. So there's a lot of different sides. Being in the military can be the greatest thing that's ever happened to you.
That's a fact.
And it just depends what you want to get from it, what you want to give, what you want to learn, and where you might want to go in your life. And
usually what you get out of it is what you put into it.
If I were an employer, and if you could get away with it, I would say I want to hire only military veterans. They know how to work. They know how to take charge in emergencies. They know how to follow directions. They know how to get others motivated. And they're just like the best people you could possibly have in your workplace.
That's a fact.
And in the classroom, I can say as an instructor.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you, as an instructor, do you note a difference in someone that's been in the military?
Speaking for myself, I would definitely say yes. They come in with a skill set, with an attitude, with a level of motivation, and self-discipline that is sometimes lacking in that generation. So I'm always glad to see them, occupy one of my seats, to be sure. Referencing Agent Orange again, here's a comment in the chat. With all the negative health effects of Agent Orange, what was it like seeking health care? Do all Vietnam veterans get health benefits and or insurance, or just some?
Well, I hope they do, but that hasn't always been my experience. And too many of them just don't understand what you have to go to get it out. So that's why I keep encouraging, talk to the VA, talk to your state representative, talk about it and gather information and find out where to go and what to do.
I think most VAs, Veteran Administration, I think they're better than they used to be when
Yes.
Sam was young, but some still have a way to go. If someone tries to apply for a disability because of an injury in their war, sometimes they make that so hard and they have to prove so much. It gets rejected. And a lot of times the veterans just give up.
That's what I tell them. You don't
Because
lose till you quit trying.
They're tired of trying to fight for something that should not be questioned. I mean, freedom is not free. Somebody has to earn that.
That's a fact.
And every veteran should be taken care of without having to fight and prove what they did.
Absolutely. Let's see, I'm just check and see if anybody. Oh, we've got some raised hands. Outstanding. Nate, do you want to ask a question?
Hi, yeah. So first I want to say thank you for your service. And then my main question is, what made you decide to join the Army? My grandpa joined the Navy in the early 60s. He didn't see combat during Vietnam, but he was around that time.
I was going to join the Navy, and I graduated from high school and got a job, but I went to Indianapolis to the recruiter's office, and I was standing in the line. There were lines for the Navy, lines for the Army, lines for the Air Force,
Marines.
And I was in the Army line. And
no, you weren't in the Army line.
Which line was I in?
I thought you were in the Marine Corps line.
You're right. Yeah, I was going to join the Marine Corps.
Sorry, he drinks heavily. No, he didn't.
But the Marine Corps line wasn't moving very fast, and I had to go to work in about an hour and a half, and it was an hour drive to where I was working. So I just stepped over into the Army line, and boom.
That's how you get to be in the Army. The other lines don't move.
Wow. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the answer.
Well, most certainly, sir. You joined the Army yet?
No, I'm in college right now.
Well,
good for you.
We need the help, so get educated, get smart, and come help us.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Nate. Lydia, would you like to pose another question?
Yes, I would love to. So I was wondering how you were able to communicate or visit family at home. I'm not sure if you were allowed to, or if you two had met by then, how you communicated with each other.
Our only communication was by letters.
Oh, wow.
You didn't get to go home on
No.
leave when you're in another country.
No.
So it was so old fashioned. I know y'all probably don't believe that. Some little kids will say, well, why didn't you just text your mom? Well, we didn't have cell phones yet.
Right.
But it was only letter writing.
Yep.
Wow.
That was our only form of communication.
Wow. So my understanding, my great-grandfather, he was in World War II.
Cool.
He also sent letters home, and I still have those letters. I keep those letters.
Oh, awesome.
Good for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
That's good because it's your family history.
That's right.
Oh, yeah,
Good
for
thing
sure.
to have.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Well, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Anybody else want to raise their hand? So Ellen's asking sort of as a follow-up to that, were you given R&R while you were in country, and where did you go?
Yes, sir. I got R&R. I went to Sydney, Australia, and it was wonderful. The people were treated us terrific, and it was a beautiful country.
Was that after you were wounded? Did they send you there to recover a little bit?
Yeah.
Didn't you have to have a medic or somebody accompany you?
I had a medic. Yes, definitely. But it worked great.
That might have cut into your fun time a little bit, huh?
Well, possibly.
They don't need to hear it. It's okay.
Now the comments are going to come rolling into the chat.
Yeah.
On that point.
How much more time we got, Robert?
A few more minutes.
Okay.
If you've got the time. How did stardom change your life? You know, how did getting the Medal of Honor? I mean, you've attended all the inauguration balls and
Yes,
galas,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir. Well, that was just part of the job that with receiving the Medal of Honor is like getting a job, because now I had to stand up tall and represent all of the military in America. And I knew that. In fact, some of the older Medal of Honor recipients explained to us new guys or the Vietnam vets that had received the medal, and they explained to us the why and how that we should act. And we tried to, when Pappy Boynton comes up and says, son, you got to do this, you do it,
We've been given a lot of privileges, though.
Definitely.
We get to meet so many interesting people, and like sitting on movie sets, all of that's just real special. And we're just regular people. We're not really special, but we've been given so many privileges, and we try to always remember that. And it's like I grew up on a dairy farm. Sam grew up in the country also. And I think the one thing that's still true, and speaking to students now, it's the very same thing that my mom and dad told me.
Yes.
The whole secret to life is just two things: be nice and act right.
Yep.
That's all.
Simple
we knew
rules.
what act right meant, by the way. But it's just so simple. It's the old golden rule, do unto others. And when we talk to like 8th grade and high school, I always say to them, do you still have class bullies? Does that still happen? And people, they're looking at each other, some are pointing. And I'll say, and if you are the class bully, stop it. Nobody likes you. You probably don't even like yourself. So act right and be nice.
Yep. Simple.
Did you find that, being a country boy, as you say, made it the transition to the rigors of active service life easier than some of the city boys that you encountered?
Well, I seem to adapt into it quicker and easier than some of the city boys. I mean, some of the city boys did wonderful, but country boy, I was just used to doing my job, whatever that was, and continue on. And that's the way it was in the military.
Well, you and your brothers were always out in the woods playing,
Yep.
Fishing, hunting. So being out roughing it was not really that big a deal.
Nope.
It's because of what you did every day.
Well, our family, we helped feed our family. I had 3 older brothers, and we all hunted and fished and brought it home and cleaned it, and Mom fixed it for supper, and go out the next day and do it again. So it worked great.
So there's a lot of comments in the chat. I don't know if you see
Yes,
them.
sir.
Yes,
Thank you
this
for your
Jamie.
service and-
Jamie right now had a very good one, which
Yes.
is so true.
So true.
Saying that a lot of vets don't talk about it. We run into that all the time. And I try to encourage, I think it was grandfather, maybe great-grandfather, but if they'll talk to each other before
The
they
vets.
will talk to family members. But if you ever can get them to record anything, again, it's your family history. You need to know those things. The thing that helped Sam early on was before they had that video that you saw at the beginning, he had to tell his story every time he spoke. It was hard, but I think it helped him.
Definitely.
Because it unburdened that he was holding inside. But that's not unusual to hear that they won't talk about it. And that's unfortunate because it would help you to know the history, and it probably would help them tremendously to get it off their chest,
Yes,
so to speak.
It does help them. So
And as a
you don't lose till you quit trying.
As a historian, I'll echo that. My appreciation of you, making the rounds, getting out the message, telling your story, and the book. I mean, I strongly recommend this book. I've read a lot of memoirs of,
Thank you, brother.
This is an outstanding read, and this will transport you to the, to that day. And I
No
think
matter what you're faced with in life, you don't lose until you quit trying.
You do mention in the book that you've struggled with PTSD.
Yes, sir.
Does that still plague you, or have you gotten that out of your system?
I'm better. No, I haven't gotten it out of my system. I still have nightmares about Vietnam almost every night, but now I've learned how to interject into my dreams good stuff. Instead of just dreaming about the bad stuff, after all these years, I'm able to take it someplace a little bit better. So it's still there, but I'm still dealing with it.
He's still what I call over vigilant. We'll be driving somewhere and he'll do, did you see that? And I'm looking everywhere if there's an animal or a person or something. And I said, what, where? And he'll say, in the tree line.
Yep.
So that's not something I look at when I'm driving, but I haven't been in combat either, but you observe everything in your surroundings.
You learn that you have to.
So I understand you're gonna treat us to a something on the harmonica, which
I would like to play everybody Shenandoah on my harmonica.
And that was your companion in
Tell the
Vietnam,
story.
wasn't it?
Yes, sir. My mama sent me a harmonica in Vietnam because she thought that I was bored because of the letters that I wrote. I hadn't been writing real often. Every couple of weeks, I'd write a letter. So she went to the state representative in Indiana, and he got a hold of the Department of the Army. The Department of the Army got a hold of my captain in Vietnam, and I don't know how they did that, but my captain came walking up to me, walked up to my foxhole, and he said, "Private Davis." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You haven't been writing your mother." So he's explained to me, I will write my mother every day, and it has to be at least 3 sentences long. Well, when you have to write to your mama every day and you're in a combat situation, you can't write about what's really going on around you. I wrote about ducks, little baby ducks, because we had thousands of them around us at all times. So after a few weeks of mama getting letters every day with me talking about little ducks, she thought, boy, he must be really bored. So mom sent me a harmonica. Well, I didn't really know how to play it. I just stuck it in my pocket, went back to my foxhole, and one of my sergeants, Johnston Dunlap, come walking up. He said, "Private Davis." I said, "Yes, Sergeant." He said, "Did your mother send you a harmonica?" And I said, "Yes, Sergeant, she did." He said, "Play Shenandoah for me." That's the area where he was from, was the Shenandoah Valley. And I didn't know how to play the harmonica, but we were artillery, so I could sit and all the time, and it was okay. The enemy already knew where we were. We weren't hiding. And within a couple of weeks, you could tell what I was trying to play. And I continued playing it. I still play it very, very often because everybody knows about the song and the story, so they want to hear Shenandoah. I would like to play Shenandoah for y'all here tonight. I hope that it finds a place in your heart.
Unfortunately, WebEx takes off the music. Sorry.
Oh, right. Thank you for that. We heard some of that.
I couldn't hear what she said.
Apparently, the WebEx doesn't pick up that tone. but we did
Okay.
hear some of that.
Oh,
Thank you for that. And it's for those that read your book, that
They can
definitely
Google
is
my name
poignant.
it'll come up on
Yeah,
YouTube
and you can get it
lots
on
of-
YouTube. And
Okay, that's good advice. If I could ask one more question about
yes,
your
sir.
your relationship to the civilian population when you were in country. There's some very moving scenes in your book about the complete deprivation of the locals and the dilemma that they were often in, sort of being squeezed from both sides. The American presence and the Viet Cong. It was a kind of unwinnable situation for many of them.
But you don't lose until you quit trying. And that's what we learned we had to do. You just don't quit trying. You keep standing up firmly for what you believe is right in your heart, and keep going.
And the American presence in Vietnam also, aimed to help the civilian population, didn't it? I think there was a
Yes, sir.
lot of humanitarian activity that goes largely
Oh,
unnoticed.
Well, that's what we were over there to help and keep free the Vietnamese people. Dixie and I got to go back over in 2016, and the way the people treated us, I wasn't in uniform, I just in civilian clothes, but they knew that I was a GI, and the way they treated us it just made my heart feel good. And they thanked us for keeping them free. It was wonderful, wonderful trip.
Okay, well, it looks like we're close to the end of our
Yes,
of our
sir. Well, it's been
event.
excellent.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully you see the comments in the chat, the universal sort of gratitude that's being expressed for your service and for joining us tonight. And
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sophia.